Starting to accumulate a pretty decent vinyl record collection. This is part of the collection upstairs. The other part would be downstairs near the downstairs turntable. But I thought it might be fun to start going through some of these and kind of checking out different aspects of the collection. We're going to start with a selection that was hand selected to go visit my mom in Illinois for her birthday. I hadn't seen my mom in a couple of years, and she's just been getting into vinyl records herself. She's always kind of been into vinyl records. She hangs them on the wall for decorations and then just takes them off the wall and plays them. I don't do that, but I will show you the little selection of vinyl records and also cassette tapes that I chose to take to my mom's, because she also asked to bring some cassette tapes because her setup plays cassette tapes. And there's been a little bit of a, not analog resurgence. You get those from time to time, and there's always a pretty steady subculture of analog people, but a lot more people getting back into the cassette tapes. And so I'm going to show them to you now, the ones that I took to my mama's birthday. All right, this should be fun. This first one we're going to show you, I did not take this actual copy. I bought my mom a copy. This is my copy that I already had, and I found an extra copy in a record store in town before I went to visit my mom, so I bought it for her. Figured it'd be a cool birthday present. Eye in the Sky, of course, has the famous song Eye in the Sky. It's a radio rock staple for over 40 years and a pretty cool record. Alan Parsons has some pretty good music, but he was also associated with the recording of Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon, so neat little find. And then we have Fugazi's Argument. And I took this because it has some mellower songs on it, and my mom's not really into the hardcore, punk rock, agitated guitar music like I am, but I figured she might enjoy some of the mellower songs on the Argument album, particularly the song Argument itself. Now this one, I didn't actually take, but I bought in the town my mom lives in back in Illinois at an antique shop. It's like an antique co-op where, many people will bring in records or things to sell. So I got Marvin Gaye's classic What's Going On. I've always loved this album, particularly the production of the album, and with the remastered 180 gram and all the bells and whistles that modern vinyl gets, I figured I'd pick up a copy. Then we have Beach Boys' Endless Summer. This is a pretty good little mixture of a lot of their hits. It's got Surfin' Safari, Surfer Girls, Surfin' USA, just about every surfing song you can think about. Beach Boys' Endless Summer. Talking Heads, Speaking in Tongues, my personal favorite Talking Heads album, and probably the provider of a lot of their biggest hits, or known. It's got Burning Down the House anyway. Just Once in a Lifetime's not on the album, but I don't really like that song very much anyway. But Dire Straits, classic album. This has my favorite Dire Straits song on it, Down to the Waterline. So I took that. Again, these were all just fun records that I drove to Illinois to listen to with my mom on her birthday. Eurythmics, classic Here Comes the Rain Again. It's also got, of course, I guess that's the only big hit that's on here. But Here Comes the Rain Again is my favorite Eurythmics song, and I love listening to that song on vinyl. That bass line really gets to me. Figured my mom was around in the 90s, and she might enjoy some of the, radio, I guess, standards that were on the Soundgarden Super Unknown album. And so many radio hits on this album. This was definitely a huge thing in the mid-90s. Police, Ghost in the Machine, Spirits in the Material World, Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic, Invisible Sun. A lot of hits from the Ghost in the Machine Police album, The Police. Genesis, Duke. I don't think we ever got to listening to this one in particular. And now that I think about it, I don't know if we actually listened to the Soundgarden album either. Again, my mom's not really a fan of the heavier stuff, and that Soundgarden can be a little heavy for my mom. The classic Steely Dan Aya, or however you pronounce that, amazing album. Decon Blues, Josie, Peg, Black Cow. A lot of people now, refer to this as yacht rock. That really wasn't a thing back in the day. I've listened to Steely Dan since I was a kid, and this whole yacht rock thing has really only been a thing over the last couple years, and it kind of started as a joke. And I would consider Steely Dan just really excellent high-end music, jazz-inspired pop music. I wouldn't call it yacht rock. I don't think that's really a thing, but I digress. Of course, you know, I have to get my goth on, so I brought the Love and Rockets Earth, Sun, and Moon album, which most people would be surprised when they actually heard it, that this was considered goth music. It's really just pretty standard rock music. The Fleetwood Mac Rumors album, classic 70s, lots of hits on here. And, you know, this is kind of my mom's era, right? So I kind of thought it was fitting. You know, she's getting up there, so she was a child of the 70s, so this would have been something that she heard on the radio when she was young. Boy, this is getting a little long. I didn't realize I brought all these records. Drab Majesty's new Object in Motion. I don't think I played this, and this is a really pleasant record, and I don't think my mom would have necessarily disliked it. The Peter Tosh Legalize It album, just because this is my favorite Peter Tosh album. This is actually my favorite reggae album, so much that I have 2 copies of it on vinyl. As my overall favorite, greatest of all time reggae artist Peter Tosh singing my overall greatest of all time reggae song, Burial. This is just my opinion, and I'm entitled to it. In more 90s nostalgia, the Alice in Chains Jar Flies album. So, and that's it for the vinyl records that I took to my mom's birthday. Now we're just going to briefly go through the tapes. We brought an empty cassette of Smashing Pumpkins' Siamese Dream. I believe this is empty because the cassette is actually in my radio downstairs because I was listening to it the night before I drove to Illinois. Hum, You Prefer an Astronaut, one of my all-time favorite albums by one of my all-time favorite bands, so much that I actually own this on vinyl, cassette tape, and CD, although I don't know where the CD is. Van Halen, whatever the name of that is, Roman numerals. I was never a big Van Halen fan. Actually, a number of years ago, somebody gave me a bunch of cassette tape cases that were full of cassette tapes from the 80s, and it had a bunch of Van Halen tapes in them. I don't know, there's a couple of songs that I like a couple of the riffs on, but I've just never been a big Van Halen fan. That wasn't really my era. I was really more of a, you know, alternative, grunge, gothy punk kid. So, case in point, the Sonic Youth Goo album. I've had this tape since I think I was 12. And I think I've had this tape since I was like 14. This is the Radiohead's first album, Pablo Honey. And I remember going to the store downtown Chicago and buying this exact cassette tape. And I remember taking it to a baseball game with my dad. My dad was a big Chicago sports guy. I was never into sports. I was just look forward to eating the nachos. And I remember listening to this at the Wrigley Field or whatever they knocked down and built after that. But Pablo Honey. And that's kind of part 1 at a look at my vinyl record collection and some cassette tapes and what I took to my mama's birthday party. So we'll come back and do more vinyl record sections. I have a whole bunch of stuff here and then a whole bunch of stuff downstairs because we're accumulating quite the collection. I have, of course, my main turntable and monitors up here, the Audio-Technica and my Rocket 5 monitors, which also double over as my music studio monitors. So anyway, thumbs up. Catch you on the next one.